Today, we'll be reacting to Victor Wembanyama is the NBA's next villain. Let's check this out.
Victor Wembanyama is not of this earth. At a
He's
sprawling
an
7
alien.
foot 7 inches, the basketball gods bestowed upon the world the most perfect basketball player to ever exist. Not just in size or grace,
Oh, snap.
or any of
Hold
the
up. Is that Bronny? Yo.
physical traits or attributes that he's been blessed with. It's not his ability to shoot a 35-foot three-pointer or snatch an opposing shot out of the air as if it never existed, but it's his temperament. At the tender age of 22, Victor Wembanyama had it all figured out. He spouts philosophical edicts, wears blue light glasses at 9 p.m., trains with kung fu masters, started a team book club, and more or less lets you know that he knows he's the greatest thing since sliced bread. But above all, it's his obsession with the game that might just be the most otherworldly thing about him. It's as if you imbued Wilt Chamberlain's body with the essence of Kobe Bryant. That is, after you add 5 inches and take away 40 pounds. When others his age are worried about what parties they'll attend that weekend, or what outfit they should cop for the summer season, Wemby is focused on one thing in life: being the greatest basketball player ever. Because of this singular noble focus and his pure unprecedentedness, he becomes the easiest player in the world to root for.
What? How is bro juggling like that? Hold up.
And his pure unprecedentedness, he becomes the easiest player in the world to root for. From the very beginning, it felt as if the world was rooting for Victor Wembanyama to succeed. He's the voice of the people, who the masses yearn for, a player who puts the sanctity of the game above all. He is the anointed face of the NBA. I wrote this on the morning of May 28th, which, apart from being about 3 weeks ago, was also Game 6 of the Western Conference Finals. Wemby, as he's so effortlessly and affectionately called, was, at the time, an NBA superhero. The anointed one who could do no wrong, and won over the hearts of everyone in the NBA. His journey had been parallel with that of destiny. The consensus of the world in 2023 when he was drafted was that he could be the greatest ever. And, through the sheer brilliance of his development, he arrived earlier than expected. Going into the NBA Finals, making him and his team the second youngest ever in history to do so, cemented his legacy before he's even really had a chance to mold it. The only player younger than Wembanyama to take a lead role on in the finals was Earvin Magic Johnson, who, in a burst of excellence, clinched a title win for the Los Angeles Lakers by playing center with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar hurt for Game 6, where he had 42 points and 15 rebounds and 7 assists against Dr. Julius Erving's 76ers. These finals, by the way, is where Dr. J made the most famous layup in history. There was no such heroic moment for Victor Wembanyama. There is a sick tendency in humanity that loves to rear its head in the most public of forums. The Germans have a word for it, which has been adapted in English: Schadenfreude, meaning pleasure in another's pain. It's why seeing someone fall is kind of funny. How the Three Stooges reached national acclaim, and is what we see on a day-to-day basis on social media. Okay, I'm asking you, go on your reels right now or whatever you got, TikTok. How far do you have to scroll to see someone getting made fun of or someone experiencing some kind of pain? My guess is probably not that far. If Kalshi ends up
Cause bro, the media loves to feed off people's pain, bro. When I open up TikTok and I scroll probably 1-2 TikToks, it's somebody making fun of someone else, and sometimes the reactions, they be funny sometimes, but other times they'd be really harmful, not harmless, harmful. But yeah, our world really just feeds off pain, man, and they profit off people's pain, which is not really a good thing. So hopefully we can have more content creators out there really just pushing out positivity and showing, yeah, the beauty of life.
Financializing everything, I'll probably be able to put a bet down on it, and if I did, I would put my life savings that you would find one within 10 minutes. And it's funny that it's really only on social media where you see it. It's not normal, typical human behavior to laugh at someone failing, to be gleeful or critical of one's downfall. But on Instagram, TikTok, or Twitter, or being mean-spirited and critical is encouraged. It allows you to bully people that you'll never ever see in your life. And in some cases, many cases, it rewards you in doing so. Just like sports media. The NBA prides itself on being the most social media forward league in the world.
Oh, snap. So they got 13 billion on Instagram, 32 billion across all social media platforms, 12 billion on YouTube, and the NBA app has 1 billion. Bro, this is insane.
Boasting billions of impressions. Adam Silver's even made a point of valuing social media, it feels like, over the actual product. I'm stating the obvious here, but that crockpot of anonymity, incentive to bash on people, and sheer popularity of the NBA makes its fan base possibly the most toxic on planet Earth, outside of maybe soccer or Nicki Minaj. I say all that to set up this. There's another expression we all know: the bigger they are, the harder they fall. It's human nature to be infatuated with that fall, and the bigger the fall, bigger the crowd. It's what we see with sports players all the time. When they come into their respective leagues, they're beloved typically for some kind of quirk or skill that they possess that endears them to the general public. And if they never really have high expectations and never cause the public to expect something extraordinary out of them, they can expect to enjoy that belovedness for the rest of their career. Boban Marjanovic and Steven Adams exemplify this phenomenon. But if you have expectations or begin to beget expectations, then everything changes. A darling player can become grating, lazy, unfocused, or any other negative adjective you can think of. Normally it takes about a season for this distinction to appear. Zion Williamson and Ja Morant are the latest individual recipients of this heel turn, but even then, it didn't take all that long. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and the Oklahoma City Thunder did take about a season to go from loved to hated. But for Victor Wembanyama, all it took was one series. The bigger they are, the harder they fall. Now, I don't claim to be a Nostradamus by any sense, but when I was writing this video on May 28th, the title that I had in mind is the same one that you're seeing now. Victor Wembanyama will be the NBA's next villain. I knew it would be a matter of time before the universal adulation for the young guy would end, because there is a strict limit to how much someone can be loved. If the Spurs won 44 games like they were projected to, we would not be having this conversation, because Wemby just wouldn't have been good enough. But then they won 62 games. Then they beat the Blazers in 5. And then they beat the Minnesota Timberwolves, the reigning Western Conference finalists. Still didn't matter. They split the first 6 games of the Western Conference Finals with the reigning NBA champion Thunder, and Wemby still didn't cross the line into hatred. He was the golden boy, the chosen one, the hero to take down the villainous Oklahoma City Thunder, whose flail tactics were the scourge of the NBA for the entire horrid season. And he did it. He beat them. He did that, and we couldn't believe it, and he couldn't believe it. The man, who refuses to carry the burden of his own emotions, let him all out, and our love for the guy reached an all-time peak. The Thunder, who were in his position, literally not even joking, less than 2 years ago, could only look on. There was indeed a time where when they won, NBA fans would rejoice. But that was fleeting. The warts of their team became the defining characteristics. Before, the Thunder were hated for, playing the game by its rules. No, actually, everything they're doing is legal. Check out my video on flopping to see. And preferential treatment from the referees. They didn't do anything wrong, per se, except Lou Dort. They're a charismatic group of guys that only crime really is being a bit too corny. Yet, because of perception, they've morphed from the NBA's beloved to its villain in no time flat. The bigger they are. Now, back to Victor. He's a lot like Kobe. Now that means nothing but good things, but there was a time before Dear Basketball Kobe that being like Kobe was not a good thing. In 2006, Kobe was the 5th most hated athlete in America. Dick Vitale wrote a piece in 2004 called Ego plus Selfishness equals Kobe. Kobe Bryant was a selfish, standoffish, and cold kind of guy. Victor Wembanyama is not these things, granted. He didn't break up a dynasty with a top 10 player all time because he wanted the ball more. But he does have an ego, also a mean streak of competitiveness. And in today's times, any ounce of competitiveness, any ounce of ego, unprofessionalism, or any smidge of unsportsmanlike conduct will lead to outcry. Everything's so sensitive nowadays. And in these playoffs, Victor showed all of these things. Not only that, but his own grave was dug by being so perfect in the first place.
I'm just glad to be a part of something that's growing to be so beautiful and so pure and ethical basketball, you know?
Now, we have to remember here that Wembanyama is French. He thinks in French. English is his second language. It's not natural for him to understand the nuances and impact of word choice like a native speaker would. But that said, no one really cares about that. Aggregation culture, social media culture, rewards the spiciest statements. And when Wemby mentioned pure and ethical in regards to the Thunder, it was a great headline. It's just not what he meant. What he meant was that the Spurs passed the ball as opposed to relying on isolation like the Thunder do, and that they were a bit more pure when it comes to the original intent of basketball, which is all true. But in the ever-growing NBA mythos, the headline is what sticks, and what one says in earnest and in truth gets twisted and abridged until the original meaning is lost like a game of telephone. Casual fans are free to build their own idea of what a player should be like, based on these headlines alone. And memes do nothing but capitalize on these easy and lazy characterizations of these players. The public, all in all, doesn't really care to know the details. What's the funniest image you can come up with that's kinda true? James Harden is a flopper. Joel Embiid is lazy. Jason Tatum is corny, and I could go on. Wembanyama's image just happened to be spotless, to the point where he was considered the best player in the world by May, with his only fault being his youth. He was the flag bearer of the new pure game of basketball, enlightened from his rigorous and arduous training from the Shaolin monks. Then he did this.
There's that.
Dude,
that's
yeah, that was super dirty. He was throwing a lot of elbows just in general in the playoffs.
Ooh.
The Golden Boy image began to crack. The communist pacifist who advocated for world peace, meditating in the mountains of China, was now staring down his opponents, winding up his arm, and connecting to the windpipes in the most dirty play that we've seen in the NBA since Draymond Green stomped on Sabonis' chest. From there, it continued to keep rolling. Questionable plays, sulking, careless turnovers. Was Wembanyama really as perfect as his image seemed? Of course not, he's 22. But it is kinda jarring. He was caught telling his veteran back of the bench centers to essentially be hired bruisers for the team. It makes sense, I guess, given his competitiveness, but it shows you that he's really not squeaky clean, and certainly not pure and ethical like his image had led fans to believe. And this play, in my mind, shows us what Wembanyama is capable of. Anything that he can get away with. When they made it to the finals, after the emotional outburst, and the proclamation that these next few games would mean his entire life, it became easier to hate him. And why is that? Well, because he started receiving protection from the stripes. The one thing sports fans hate most, more than dynasties, unlikable personalities, and in many cases criminals, is inconsistency in officiating. If a team or player is favored, for whatever reason, there is a universal
No. No, the way that LeBron is reacting, hold up.
officiating. If a team or player is favored, for whatever reason, there is a universal response of disgust. Wemby's elbow to the neck of Naz Reid was not okay, but it wasn't image ruining because he was fairly thrown out of the game. But then he did this.
Watch this play. This is what frustrated Brunson. Oh, whoa! That's, excuse me, that should be a flagrant one. Wemby's laughing at it.
Let alone the fact that Jalen Brunson is most likely the most likable player in the NBA right now, or that the Knicks are currently the league's sweetheart. For no call to be made on this play, let us know. The refs are on Wemby's side. And once that was figured out, well, let the hate run loose. This doesn't even take into consideration the wraparound that he'd had on Alvarado the game before. Already a very questionable no call. Nor does it take into consideration that his opponents were indeed the New York Knicks. The fan base ready to anoint a new villain at the drop of a hat. All it took was one game from Trae Young to be a villain in New York forever. And Wemby's first finals in Madison Square Garden was no different. All it took was one game. And Wemby crossed over into the next plane, required for ascension in the greats. The villain. In Game 4 of the finals, the NBA rightfully assessed Wembanyama with a flagrant foul against Karl Anthony Towns, but the play against Brunson still loomed. On top of that, there was a play where it seemed like Wemby was aiming for OG Anunoby's knee, with an unnatural movement on his screen. The case is building. In Game 5, it was evident, and everyone watching the game had the same sense. If Wemby got one more flagrant foul, he would be suspended for the series, and Scott Foster, the extender, was officiating the game. Wemby could come in and shoot someone and not get a flagrant foul. That much was confirmed in the landing space infraction against Jalen Brunson. That somehow didn't meet the grounds for the flagrant, despite Brunson performing a much weaker version of the foul a few games before and having it getting called. It was official. Wemby is the league's golden boy, now blessed with the esteemed protection of Adam Silver in the NBA. He can do no wrong and he must be protected, which is unfair. Well, at least if he was able to back up his talk, maybe this would be less of an issue. But he didn't. In the most crucial moments of the finals, despite talking a big talk,
I'm not worried the slightest. It's almost not like I have anything to figure out. It's almost like I have to play normal, not even good. This is why I'm not worried. We're gonna be so much better. I'm gonna be so much better.
He choked. He told Mitchell Robinson in Game 4, "I'm in your head." And Mitch said,
"Bro, this was absolutely insane. I remember that game. I think they were up by like 20 or something, bro. And they blew the lead. They blew the lead. How can you blow that much of a lead, man? Well, we do know that Wemby's only 22. He's still young, so there are improvements that he and his team can make, but I still can't get over the fact that they were up by so much.
Yeah, you are.
It's behind him. Wembanyama misses in finals history.
Wemby had not one signature moment in these finals and was mostly outplayed by Karl Anthony Towns. He was nowhere to be found in the fourth quarter, and in the final seconds of a gentleman's sweep, he hoisted up a three-pointer before walking off the court, not acknowledging any one of his opponents. The same pattern he'd been following for the entire playoffs. On the other side, Jalen Brunson, who just won his first title and won for the city of New York after 53 years, went to congratulate before his own father, the opposing head coach. In these finals, Victor Wembanyama exposed himself for what he really is. A 22-year-old who thought he had it all figured out and was God's gift to man. Brash, overconfident, emotional, and at the end of the day, still a kid. But that is, of course, the beauty of growth. With a severe and cruel temperament like he has, he'll take the jeers and the boos and internalize them. He'll take the rah-rah and use it to fuel him. He's a dirty player? Sure. The refs are on his side? Okay. He won't give a damn. He'll embrace the criticism, he'll embrace the questions, and he may well become insufferable. He'll come out of all of that as the golden savior for the league in due time. But not now, because right now, it's time for him to be a villain.
Man, this video really reminds me of that quote from Batman. I believe Two-Face said it. He said, you either live long enough to see yourself... No, you either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. And in this case, Victor Wembanyama has lived long enough to see himself become the villain. But we shall see how next season goes. Maybe he'll become the hero again, or he might be indeed the NBA's new villain. Thank you for watching this video. I'll see y'all in the next one.